Welcome back. Today we're diving into one of the most confusing, misunderstood, and potentially valuable coins still hiding in plain sight, the 1982 Lincoln penny. This is the year that changed everything, and most people have no idea what they're actually holding when they see one. Because here's the truth, almost every 1982 penny you find is worth just 1 cent. People spend them every day without a second thought. But a small number of these coins? Those are completely different. Those are the ones collectors hunt for. Those are the ones that can be worth hundreds, sometimes thousands, and in rare cases even more. And the reason all of this exists comes down to one critical moment in U.S. coin history. In 1982, the United States Mint made a major change. For decades, pennies had been made mostly of copper. But due to rising metal costs, the mint switched to a zinc-based composition with only a thin copper coating. That decision created something unusual, a crossover year. A year where multiple versions of the same coin were produced at the same time. And that's where the opportunity begins. Because in 1982, there isn't just one penny. There are multiple variations. Different compositions. Different date styles. Different mint locations. And unless you know exactly what to look for, they all appear almost identical. So let's break this down in a way that actually helps you find value. The first thing you need to understand is composition. There are two types of 1982 pennies. The earlier ones are made of mostly copper. The later ones are made of zinc. And the difference between them is not something you can always see with your eyes. But there is a simple test. Weight. A copper 1982 penny weighs about 3.11 grams. A zinc version weighs about 2.5 grams. That might sound like a small difference, but in coin collecting, it's everything. Because certain combinations of weight and design are far more desirable than others. Now let's talk about the second major factor, the date style. In 1982, pennies were produced with both a large date and a small date design. Again, this is subtle. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. But once you see the difference, you can unsee it. The small date version has a more delicate appearance. The numbers are slimmer, more refined. The large date is bolder, thicker, easier to read. Now here's where things get really interesting. When you combine these factors, composition and date style, you get multiple varieties of the 1982 penny. Some are common. Some are less common. And one of them is extremely important. The 1982D small date copper penny. This is the coin that has captured the attention of collectors for years. Because according to official records, it shouldn't exist in copper. By the time the Denver Mint was producing small date pennies, the transition to zinc was already underway. But a few copper examples have been discovered. And when one of these coins shows up, it changes everything. We're talking about a coin that looks completely normal, but weighs 3.11 grams instead of 2.5. A coin that most people would overlook, but collectors would immediately recognize as something special. And when authenticated, these coins have sold for thousands of dollars. Now let's be very clear. This is not something you're going to find in every handful of change. These are extremely rare. But they do exist. And every year, people discover coins in old collections, jars, or inherited boxes that turn out to be far more valuable than they expected. That's why this matters. Because if you don't check, you'll never know. Now let's step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture. Most 1982 pennies fall into common categories. Zinc large date. Zinc small date. Copper large date. These are interesting, but generally not worth much beyond face value unless they are in exceptional condition. And this brings us to another factor that most people ignore, condition. A worn coin that has been in circulation for decades is going to have limited value. But a coin that looks almost untouched? Sharp details, strong luster, clean surfaces? That's where collectors start paying attention. Because high-grade coins are rare. Not because they weren't made, but because they didn't survive in perfect condition. This is why grading matters. Professional services like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company evaluate coins based on strict standards. And a single point difference in grade can mean the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth hundreds or more. But again, you don't need to send every coin for grading. You just need to recognize when something is worth a closer look. Now here's something most people never think about. Transitional errors. These happen when the mint is in the process of changing something, like composition, and a few coins are struck using the old material after the switch. That's exactly what makes the 1982 D small date copper penny so valuable. It's not just rare. It's a mistake. A moment in time where something slipped through the system. And those moments are what collectors chase. So here's what I want you to do. The next time you come across a 1982 penny, don't ignore it. Don't assume it's just another coin. Take a closer look. Check the date style. Is it small or large? Check the mint mark. Is there a D for Denver, or is there no mint mark, meaning it was made in Philadelphia? Then, if you can, check the weight. That one step alone could completely change what you're holding. Because the truth is simple. Most people will never find a valuable coin. Not because they're not out there, but because they never look closely enough. They rush. They assume. They miss the details. But now you know what to look for. You understand the difference between copper and zinc. You understand the importance of small date versus large date. You understand why certain combinations matter. And that puts you ahead of almost everyone else. Because somewhere out there, right now, there is a 1982 penny sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a collection, waiting for someone to notice what makes it different. The only question is, will that someone be you? So before you spend your next penny, take a second look. Because the coin you almost ignore might be the one that turns out to be far more valuable than you ever imagined.